You have been cheated your entire life. Every time you open a bag of trail mix, the big pieces are on top. Every time you shake a cereal box, the small crumbs sink and the large clusters rise. Every single time. You probably assumed the factory just packed it that way, or that things settled during shipping. But that is not what happened. There is a physical force at work inside every container of mixed granules you have ever touched. It has a name. Scientists call it granular convection, and it rewrites what you thought you knew about how things move. Most people assume the answer is obvious. Heavy things sink, light things float. That is the intuition, and it is almost completely wrong. The real explanation took physicists decades to nail down, involves fluid dynamics, and shows up in avalanches, industrial disasters, and the surface of Mars. Start with the most documented version of this effect, the Brazil nut problem. In a can of mixed nuts, the Brazil nuts are always on top. Always. Brazil nuts are the largest and heaviest nuts in the mix. By simple density logic, they should be at the bottom. They are not. They rise. And for a long time, nobody could agree on exactly why. In 1987, physicists A. Rosado, K.J. Strandberg, F. Prince, and R.H. Swenson at Carnegie Mellon University published the first serious mathematical analysis of this problem. Their paper in Physical Review Letters described what they called size-driven segregation. When you shake a container, every particle briefly loses contact with its neighbors. Small particles fall into tiny gaps that open beneath large particles. Large particles cannot fall into the gaps beneath small ones, so with every shake, small pieces migrate downward and large pieces get pushed upward. One shake at a time. Incrementally, relentlessly. This is the percolation mechanism, and it is one of two forces driving granular convection. But percolation alone does not fully explain the pattern, because the granules are not just sorting by size. They are circulating. In 1995, Heinrich Jaeger and Sidney Nagel at the University of Chicago used high-speed photography to film what happens inside a vibrating container of granules. What they found looked exactly like a pot of boiling water. Granules rose in the center, spread outward at the top, sank along the walls, and circled back to the center at the bottom. A continuous loop, a convection cell, inside a container of sand. The mechanism is friction. Granules near the walls experience drag and slow down. Granules in the center rise faster, creating a rotating current that never stops as long as vibration continues. Now add a Brazil nut to that current. It gets carried upward through the center with everything else. But when it reaches the top and tries to recirculate downward along the walls, it is too large to fit. The oversized granules get stranded at the surface, locked out of the convection loop that smaller particles ride continuously. Over thousands of cycles, this size-based exclusion compounds, pushing the largest pieces further and further toward the center top, trapped by geometry, stranded at the surface by its own size. And here is the part almost nobody quotes. This is not just a kitchen curiosity. In 2005, a team at the University of Notre Dame, led by physicist Wolfgang Lossert, found that at certain vibration frequencies, the convection cells reverse direction entirely. The Brazil nut sinks. Scientists call this the reverse Brazil nut effect. When vibration is strong enough and granules are fine enough, air resistance and inertia flip the sorting pattern. Large, dense objects that normally rise can be made to sink just by changing the rhythm of the shaking. The system does not have one behavior. It has two, and which one you get depends entirely on how you disturb it. Here is what it means in the real world. Granular convection kills people. The pharmaceutical industry spends hundreds of millions of dollars every year fighting it. When you manufacture a pill containing multiple active ingredients in granule form, those ingredients must be distributed evenly throughout every tablet. But the moment you vibrate the mixture during processing, granular convection begins. Ingredients separate by size. One tablet ends up with twice the intended dose. Another has almost none. That difference in surface texture changes everything, because rougher particles generate more friction, slow down faster, and travel shorter distances during any given shake. The FDA calls this content non-uniformity, and it has triggered massive drug recalls. In 2012, a report in Pharmaceutical Development and Technology identified granular segregation as one of the top 3 causes of manufacturing failures in solid oral dosage forms. Mining has the same crisis. When ore is transported over rough terrain, the heaviest chunks rise to the surface. Sampling teams get a completely unrepresentative picture of the shipment. Now go to space. In 2005, the European Space Agency's Mars Express orbiter confirmed that on Martian dune slopes, Large rocks consistently appeared at the top and fine sand concentrated at the base. The pattern matched granular convection driven by Marsquakes and thermal expansion cycles. The same force sorting your trail mix is sorting the surface of another planet. And if you are designing a rover that needs to drill into Martian soil, you need to account for the fact that the top layer is systematically different from what lies beneath. But the deepest version of this story is about avalanches. In 1993, researchers Stéphane Douady and Yves Couder at the École Normale Supérieure in Paris discovered that a granular flow does not just slide. It sorts itself during the slide. Smaller, denser grains sink toward the bottom of the flow, while lighter, larger ones ride the surface, meaning the segregation is already well underway before the pile even stops moving. Large debris rises to the top of a flowing avalanche. Fine powder sinks beneath. That fine layer acts as a lubricant, dramatically reducing friction and allowing the avalanche to travel much farther than its mass alone should permit. The same geometry that lifts a Brazil nut extends the kill radius of a mountain. In 2006, physicists at the University of Sheffield studied granular convection in zero gravity using NASA's reduced gravity aircraft. They found that without gravity, the Brazil nut effect still occurs. Weakly, slowly, but it still happens, which means gravity is not the engine of this effect. Vibration is. Gravity shapes which direction things sort, but the force doing the sorting is the vibration, the gaps, the flow. You cannot simply remove gravity and assume your mixture will stay stable. The next vibration will start sorting it again. What granular convection reveals, at its core, is that disorder is not the natural state of a disturbed system. Order is not the order you want, not the order you designed, but a relentless, mechanical, self-organizing order that emerges from nothing but size, friction, and repetition. Shake anything long enough, and it will stop being random. In 2001, Troy Shinbrot at Rutgers University showed that even chemically identical particles, differing only in size, will segregate under vibration into distinct bands, not two layers. Repeating stripes of coarse and fine material, spaced at regular intervals. Pattern from chaos. Structure from noise. This is what physicists call spontaneous symmetry breaking, and it shows up everywhere. In fluid dynamics, in crystallization, in the formation of sand dunes. Disturb a system repeatedly, and it will find structure. Not because anything is guiding it, because the rules of geometry and energy leave no other option. Now go back to your bag of trail mix. You are looking at the same phenomenon that organizes the crust of Mars, threatens pharmaceutical manufacturing, and extends the path of mountain avalanches. It happened because of every vibration the bag absorbed in transit, every jostle on the warehouse shelf, every bump in the delivery truck. By the time you opened the bag, the system had already been at work for hours, but now you cannot unsee it. Your spice rack, your gravel driveway, the soil beneath your feet settling after rainfall. Granular convection does not care that you did not know its name. It has been sorting the world into layers since long before anyone was here to notice. The universe, it turns out, has a strong preference for things ending up where their size says they belong. Every shake is a vote, and the geometry always wins.